here at Creek Stewart's Willow Haven School. Let's go check it out.
We're pretty much all in the snack area.
Hi, I'm Art from PA Wildreness Skills. I'm out here at Willow Haven Outdoors in Indiana for Creek Stewart's book signing. Out here doing some demonstrations. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a fire demonstration for you using a ferro rod or ferrocerium rod and a piece of fat wood or fat lighter. So fat wood comes from pine trees. What it is, it's actually in the dead branches, all the sap gets concentrated into it, and it makes a great fire starter. And I'm going to show you how to use that. So what we're going to do is we're not going to cut this up. What we're going to do is actually scrape it down into small pieces. So what I'm getting here, I'm using the back of my knife because I have the back of my knife ground off to a 90 degree, but you can also use your blade if you need to. I'm going to get myself a pile of these shavings here, and then what I'm going to do is something Creek affectionately calls machine gunning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep driving the sparks down into this from my ferro rod till we get it going. Once it's lit, now's when I can start adding my smaller twigs onto that. No bigger than your pinky, until I get this fire growing. And I can start adding bigger and bigger sticks onto it. So.
Great. And where can they find you online?
PA Wildreness Skills. My website's PAWildrenessSkills.com. YouTube channel is YouTube PA Wildreness Skills. So, and on Facebook at PA Wildreness Skills.
Two. I'll just stop with two. All right, man. So the boomerangs. Here's the deal. The boomerang evolved from a throw stick, and the throw stick was Australian. There was different ones like this. This is a traditional desert region stick. This is called a beak-nosed kylie because it has the curve. It's like a beak of a bird. Sometimes they'd even stalk an emu with this. The emu is a little confused and thinks it's another emu, and then they could just whap it. But mostly they would use these to throw sidearm, and they would hit an animal and knock it down. The boomerang evolved from that. The boomerang is a tighter V. And the idea here is a boomerang, if you throw it overhand, it's going to curve and come back. If you throw it sidearm, it's going to swoop up in the air, and you could throw it into a flock of birds. So let's try that with one of these. I think that might have been the one I made into a lefty. So I don't trust any of those. I'm going to put one of these. So,
Never trust them.
yeah, I don't remember which one I turned lefty and which one I didn't. So boomerang, you throw vertically, it comes back, and you can catch it. It goes in a circle. And depending on how you make it, they'll go further. And some boomerangs will go over 100 yards before they come back. But now watch this. If I throw this sidearm, it goes up and it crashes back down. Well, think about that if we did it with this. If I'm throwing this boomerang vertically, it's going to curve and come back. If I throw it sidearm into a flock of birds, I'm cutting this 2.5 foot wide swath. It flies up, hits them from underneath, and knocks them down. So that's a really cool, effective weapon for birding. They didn't throw these at kangaroos, and if it missed, it came back and they could throw again. I've had Australian kids tell me that. Almost like it's a revolver or something, like a semi-automatic, like you throw it. I said, no, the kangaroo A is gone. B, you're not going to hit him unless he's hopping in a circle. So that's not what it was for. Strictly for birding, not for anything else. Modern boomerangs have then evolved from that to be smaller, lighter, even more technical. We've got little 3-bladers like this. We've got 2-bladers that go further. And we still make throw sticks, and we do throwing sticks, so it's a really fun sport to play. And it can be an effective hunting weapon for survival use. It's a perfect, probably the easiest weapon to make outside of throwing a stick or a stone. You get a branch, you get a root, you make a throw stick. It's a lot easier to do that than it is going to be to make a bow and an arrow, get some Osage orange, roll your own line. So check this out. This is a modern day boomerang. The wind is a little tricky here, and what we've got to do is deal with the wind. Check this.
That deserves a clap.
There you go. So that's a modern one that's a three-blader. Three-bladers, the beauty of a three-blader is they're a shorter range, and I have a very limited range here. Most of all of my competition boomerangs are going to go into these trees. So this is one of the ones with 3 wings that has more lift, has a shorter range, and comes around. Now I'll show you the throw stick. I'll use this one. This is a very good one. And so with the throw stick, we took out a tree where you're trying to throw, and they'll go straight out, really like on a dime. Nice. And so it was a really, you can tell it was a really effective weapon. You hit the kangaroo blunt on, or if you hit the tips, it has a higher tip speed. It's going to hit with even more impact. It's got a higher speed at the tips. So you can be off by 2.5, 3 feet on either side and still whack and get your animal. So it was a really effective hunting weapon, and obviously the Australian Aborigine survived for thousands of years with just a throw stick and a spear and a woomera. They had the spear and the throw stick. That was the only weapon they had. So that gives you kind of a brief history of the whole sport of boomerangs. In boomerang sport, we don't try to hit stuff. We want it to come back to us. And so the idea there is that we have a bullseye on the ground. And you throw from the bullseye. The boomerang has to go 20 meters, 60 feet, basically home base around the pitcher's mound and back. Has to go 20 meters or it doesn't count. And we do accuracy, which is like darts, where you throw and try to get to come right back to the bullseye. We do trick catch, where you throw 1 and 2 boomerangs at the same time. And you have to catch them both. And you do a series of increasingly difficult trick catches. Everybody does the same series. There's different points for each catch, and a perfect score would be 100. And then we do fast catch, which is what I showed you here with that. That is 5 catches as fast as possible. If you make a mistake or if you're inaccurate, then you lose time, you have to come back. Then we do endurance, which is 5 minutes of throwing and catching a fast boomerang. That can be brutal, especially this year's World Championships. We're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 101-degree heat. That could be brutal if you weren't dead accurate. It was brutal if you were, but if you weren't accurate, you had to chase your boomerang and come back to the bullseye. And then after you do the speed events, you have Australian round, which is distance, accuracy, and catching. You're trying to throw it, have it go 50 meters, catch it in the bullseye. And the final event is maximum time aloft, and that's a specialized carbon fiber, sometimes a wood boomerang. It's got a dihedral to it. It's not flat, it's curved up. And on this, you're trying to get it to throw. It'll go up in the air and hover. The world record, 17 minutes and 6 seconds on a boomerang in the air. And that is the maximum time aloft world record. In competition, that world record mark is, I think, around 3 minutes right now, 2 or 3 minutes, I can't remember. The 17 minutes was set during a practice round, but that is the longest throw of any hand-thrown object ever. So there's a little history of the boomerang, man. I'm Chet Snouffer. I'm a 3-time world champion, 6-time member of the world champion U.S. boomerang team. And I've been throwing boomerangs since I was 10 years old. Now I still travel around the world and compete and throw and teach other people to throw boomerangs.
Thank you. Can you do any impressions?
Well, I got a Creek Stewart. No, I don't have a Creek Stewart. I got my Aussie guys. Is that what you mean? Or, well, I found these boomerangs in Perth, Australia. And there was a sign outside the door and it said, used boomerangs for sale. And I thought, that's the weirdest sign I've ever seen. So I got to go. So I went in and I said to the lady, used boomerangs, what's up with that? And she was like, yeah, they're quite small. You know, they've got handprints on them and you can see the burn marks where they've used them in the bush to dig out. I've got heaps of them upstairs. And I was like, heaps? And she goes, oh, I got boxes full. So I said, I'd like to go see them. So I went up and I opened the box. And it was like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I was like, oh, because they were all pristine museum quality pieces. Some of them had been in museums in England. The curator of this private collection had passed away. His caretaker was an Australian. She sent them all back to Australia to her sister. So these were used boomerangs. And I said, well, how much are these boomerangs? Well, they're not going to be cheap, I can tell you that. They're quite dear. And I said, how much are they? And she's like, well, they're 40 Australian. And I thought, that was like 30 American at the time, and these are worth $1,000 a piece. I said, oh, you drive a hard bargain, ma'am, but I'm a Yankee, we're gullible, I'll take you up on it. That was a little John Wayne there. But I said, I'll take you up on it. So I maxed out my credit card, bought everything I could. And bought everyone I could and brought them back. And then I turned the other throwers on to them because it was interesting. She was going to end up selling them to tourists who would have no idea what they had.
No appreciation.
Yeah, so we sold her out within a week. We had bought everything she had, all the members of the World Boomerang community, and they ended up in the hands of people like me that are using them to educate and teach people. So it was a good move. Now I don't really have, I just got the Australian lady. It's about the only one I've got.
I want you to focus on flattening the bottom of the stem. When I say the stem, it's that bottom little section that we half into the handle. So I want you to pour some water onto your slate, and I just want you to start grinding just to get the feel of kind of how to grind the pressure you need to make movement on this stuff.
Hey guys, it's Creek Stewart, and there's a kind of a cliche statement within the survival industry that says knowledge weighs nothing. Okay, it's easy to hear that and think about that, but it really is true that knowledge weighs nothing, and there's really no gear replacement for knowledge. See, the thing about gear is something can always happen to it. You can lose it, fail you, and it happens all the time. Or you could forget it. And there's no replacement for the skills that can help you meet basic human survival needs. How to make shelter, how to regulate core body temperature, how to find and purify water, how to build fire, how to find food. Skills that you store in your brain and not in your pack. That could be the difference between life and death if something crazy were to happen while you're out on some kind of an adventure.